I'm thinking about the fact that I have way too much coffee flavored stuff, but I think it's because coffee flavor is one of the few things that it's easy to make sugar free. So as a result, you just end up with like a lot of low sugar flavored stuff because coffee is easy to imitate. Coffee is just straight easy to imitate.
I just, I don't know what the whole deal with birthday cake flavored is, because that is an abomination.
I really never. I've been lucky enough not to try much anything that's birthday cake.
The birthday cake Oreos are, oh God. Speaking of abominations, though, let us turn to.
Oh yes.
We'll make a brief mention of this because we talked a lot about the subject the other week, but Mr. Mike Pence.
Oh my God.
That he was found to have some documents that he wasn't supposed to have in him, and this was all after all the Republicans made the rounds on TV, saying about how horrible it was. Biden was a vice president. Why should he have access to this? Well, he was a senator too when he got some, which is a little fucking weird. But and my point is, just like Biden, Pence shouldn't have it either. Biden shouldn't have it, but I mean.
But they shut the fuck up and turned the papers in like half decent human beings, and then of course, which I'm sure probably I have a feeling Trump's lawyers are now what set of lawyers is he on anyway?
Oh God, he's got to be like on not quite as bad as Alex Jones with the number of lawyers he's had to work through, but I think he's had more lawyers be suspended and sanctioned than Alex Jones, because I think Alex Jones' lawyers were smart enough to.
I think one of them got disbarred. I think one of Alex Jones' lawyers.
Norm, I can't remember his last name. Starts with Norm Pressler, something like that. He was suspended for 6 months. For the release of medical information.
Nice.
They're all just. I mean, you go through the best people at the very beginning because you have the money, but eventually the money is not good enough, and the best people are gone, and then you have what is left, and then you have people like Robert Barnes and Norm something or other. And the only reason I know their names is because I listen to Knowledge Fight, the podcast, where they go in depth on it. It's hilarious. The man has.
I just thought that all lawyers. Now you're for a second. I was like, wait, do all lawyers know each other? Is there like a secret coven that I don't know about?
Nobody hates lawyers more than other lawyers.
Oh, I believe that. Now that is something I believe. I've watched enough true crime podcasts to hear lawyers just absolutely shit on other lawyers. I believe this.
There are. You know what? It's fun. You get wonderful working relationship with other attorneys, but there is that one you get in
one guy.
Your inbox goes ding, and it's that one opposing counsel, and it's Jesus Christ every time. So there's always that guy, and that guy are the type of lawyers that end up working for Donald Trump and Alex Jones.
May they all be sanctioned and have to go through embarrassing amounts of paperwork in order to be reinstated.
I mean, you think they're old enough they'd learn. Speaking of being old enough, I am 37. It is 8:00 at night, and so I need to take an acid reducer because I am an adult.
Listen, if you are old enough to remember that Mark Wahlberg started off as Marky Mark, the rapper and the little brother of a member of New Kids on the Block, you probably do need to take some antacids right now, fam.
If you know the theme song to Fraggle Rock, you need an antacid.
That was loud and painful. I never had HBO, but I wanted it because of friggin' Fraggle Rock. I wanted
loud and painful, much like my shoulder when I wake up and have to crack it. Or the way my knee clicks when I go upstairs now.
Oh.
So We're having fun. We're falling apart. So I suppose we've gotten through the fun thing.
Oh, of course.
Let's talk about the less fun thing, and then we'll get to other fun things. So, Ronnie D.
Fucking Ronald Dion DeSantis. Yeah, I full named him.
He is being a dick.
He's being a racist dick. I said it. As long as he keeps doing shit that racists like, I mean, if he's, at this point, I'm not shocked that yes, he may have had a little sleepover with Chaya, but I still say he's gonna have a little low down Wannsee conference, and God help us all after that point.
A point to you for the reference, and a point to everybody who got it.
I said what I said.
Twitter looking like a Wannsee conference right now.
Facts, examples, seen it, living through it, but yet I'm still not leaving. I'm not leaving.
Rhiannon, can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So we're just talking about Ron DeSantis canceling and banning AP African American Studies because apparently he doesn't understand that AP courses aren't Gen Ed.
Well, of course he doesn't. He never took any AP courses.
I don't even know what courses he took. Listen, this man is a shadow man on so many levels. It's not even funny. Like, we know that his I just keep thinking, your family arrived in this country in the early 20th century, and you don't understand systematic racism? Or is it that you refuse to understand it in that the fact that now that Italians are considered white, you just gonna pull the ladder up? Is this what we doing? Is this what we doing, sir? Is this what we doing, Pisano?
There's definitely a different, people, immigrants. There's a hierarchy among the immigrants.
Facts.
As well. And, I live in Southern California. I'm around a lot of Hispanic people. I've grown up around nothing but Hispanic people my whole life. Dated lots of Hispanic men. And this is explained to me by Hispanic people, the hierarchy within the Hispanic culture. Like, they see themselves, even though they're all immigrants, everything, even if they're born here, whatever, their parents are immigrants, they still see themselves as, well, at least I'm not them.
Yep.
And there's also the intercultural conflict. I mean, things I learned about when I was an undergrad, like the intercultural conflict between Jamaicans and Haitians. And
oh, okay, that was loud. Loud. Shots fired.
The reason I bring it up is because it's a thing I learned in college in a class that wasn't Gen Ed.
Which is obviously the thing that Ron DeSantis doesn't understand. For me, it's the fact that he's like, how dare they include queer studies? I'm like,
James Baldwin would like to speak to you.
And mother William Dorsey Swan would also like a word.
But the thing is, DeSantis doesn't care that those people want to talk to him. He doesn't care.
And there's also the hierarchy among white people who had come and become interests, who had been immigrants over a period of time, like the Irish, like the Italians, who were not white, became white, and were like, I got mine, fuck you.
Basically.
And of course, broad generalizations, but that's essentially this. There's all this interconflict that is ripe for study too.
And also the intersectionality of communities like the Italians. When you find, it seems, I don't know if anyone remembers when Finding Your Roots did the roots of Joe Manganiello.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Big Dick Richie. All right. So it turned out he isn't Italian at all.
Yeah.
He is Armenian, German, and a little bit black. The black comes in because, think about it. You are light-skinned, you can pass. You live in Louisiana or bumfuck Georgia. What do you think you're going to do? You're going to go get a new lease on life. You can't move into the whitest neighborhoods. They'll find you out there. So you got to move into a tenement with white people that aren't quite accepted by the larger white community. You got to live on the fringes of whiteness and claw your way in.
That's why this whole idea that he, is using the phrase intersectionality as if it in itself is some kind of curse word and is toxic because he calls Kimberly Crenshaw a Marxist communist. As if
wouldn't know the first thing about Marxists if someone beat him over the head with a copy of Das Kapital.
Well, Marxism is always that's a dog whistle as well. I think we all know that you drop those words, that's a dog whistle. He knows who he's talking to, and he knows what he's doing.
To the Cubans in South Florida who already hate Black people.
And it's the same thing as when Alex Jones talks about the globalists that are coming to and George Soros.
Right.
It's like after a certain point, you just want to be like, just say Jews, idiot. I'm tired.
And so this idea, this fight against intersectionality, it's like, that's all you like. That is a huge part of the study. And he's talking about AP African American Studies like it is replacing Black history. It's an elective.
Right.
If you are an AP student, you don't even have to actually take it. You don't.
But I mean, it does nothing. It like, he's right. It doesn't actually take away African American studies, but he's already found a way to penalize anybody who teaches anything close to the vague, non-idea of what their definition of CRT is. So he's already hobbled African American studies and Black history.
Well, this is a man who does not believe in the idea of system. This is a man who does not believe systematic equality exists. So he has to either squash the discussion of it so that people no longer know what it looks like, or squash learning about it so no one can say anything about it, because he wants to make sure that no one knows what systematic inequality looks like, so they can't call him on his eventual bullshit.
I often wonder if these people, these politicians who enact this kind of legislation, if they do these things, if they actually believe it. Because sometimes I don't think they do. I think it's just, especially in the post-Trump age, it just screams of just base pandering. It really is. I don't know. We don't know if DeSantis, if he's just he's willing to sacrifice this stuff because he's definitely going to announce a run. We all know that.
Yes, I honestly think that there's a part of him that believes it, but he's more interested in power, and he doesn't really have it. The part of him that is mean and can't get along with people believes it, but most of him wants power.
Right. And that's why he's going to do the base pandering, because this is what the base wants. The people who show up at the school board meetings freaking out, this is who he's pandering to, and this is what they want. He's trying to pick up that Trump base because this Trump campaign that he announced ain't shit. So it feeds into his own anger. I'm sorry. I do believe that somebody as unreasonable and willfully ignorant as him does genuinely have man's got some racist tendencies. I'm willing to go to the bank on that. I would go with you on that. It's not unreasonable, but I think this is a very calculated move. This wasn't a move made out of emotion. This wasn't a move made because he truly, genuinely cares about education. If the man cared about education, he would put more money into it. This is a blatant pandering move.
It's temporary money that he's going to pull from somewhere else and ruin something else that's valuable. And the fact that he's like, "Oh, I'm giving this raise." I'm like, teacher pay is still trash here.
Right.
It's still trash.
Right.
Well, the national moves and the messaging is part of something. He had that where he talked about how, during COVID, Florida was the island of freedom, or whatever the phrasing was. And it's like, you had the same policies as every other state at the very beginning.
Right.
Yeah. And now he's pandering to the anti-vax people. And I'm just like, okay, if that's just how you want to roll. And the thing is, there are some people who are aware of what's going on, and there's some people who aren't. And they're like, oh, it's never going to fly. He's never. I'm like, listen, they're going to bring up his wife surviving cancer, and that's going to humanize him. They're going to bring up his military service and not look too hard at his tenure in Guantanamo Bay, and that's going to make him into a patriot. I mean, it's going to happen. It's just a question of, will people have the balls to say, hey, yo, what happened in Guantanamo?
Oh, yeah, there's a large subset of people who are going to be very happy to learn about what he may have done at Guantanamo.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, there are people who are going to be like, good, he did torture brown people, and I like it.
I think there's also, because I live in California, you're in Florida, DeSantis and Newsom. Yeah. I think there's going to be a definite head-to-head, because Biden is probably going to announce a run, but I think Newsom this might be his year that he decides to challenge. If not, then I'm wrong. But I think we all also know that Newsom is going to run at some point, because he's been kind of firing shots at these.
Yeah, shots have been fired.
So there's what they're doing. They're laying down their trenches, to use a World War I. They're getting ready. You're either with DeSantis or you're with the fruits and nuts out here in California, and Newsom.
Newsom looks way too much like Patrick Bateman for me.
I got back and forth feelings about Newsom. I just remember at some point this man was married to Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Yes, he was.
And
she used to be I think she was the DA for San Francisco at some point. Something like that. I don't think she was the attorney general, but I think she was assistant DA or something in San Francisco.
Then why come nobody ever suggested any sexual favors was ever exchanged for her to get to where she was? But all of a sudden, when Kamala got somewhere, everyone said, "Oh, heels up Harris." I got questions
because Guilfoyle had gone over to that side. She divorced Newsom and figured out where the money is.
Oh, okay. So basically, luck and misogynoir.
Yeah, I mean, Kimberly Guilfoyle's she's a grifter. She's a minor grifter. But, and to go back to Newsom looking like Patrick Bateman, it wouldn't be California if our governor didn't look like a movie star. If he didn't I was just watching him on TV, and it was a press conference about the mass shooting in Monterey Park, and my boyfriend and I were watching him, and he was saying a lot of good things, but I remember thinking, like, everybody in California tends to be pretty good looking. It's part of the culture here.
Yeah, like I already know that I am a Florida 4, so I'd probably be like a California 1, and I'm just looking at the fact I'm like, why is that man so attractive for no reason? There is no need for Gavin Newsom to be this hot. I mean,
right?
You'd be in Ohio 10.
I don't want to go to Ohio. It's scary. I don't want to go to Ohio. I've already talked to enough people from Ohio on the phone. These people, I'm sorry, Ohio. I'm going to be honest. Ohio thinks, because they're located in the middle of the almost in the middle of the country, and they're uninteresting and mostly white, that they actually have an opinion worth having.
I've been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it's certainly a building.
Oh.
Do you guys know that just kind of going off a little bit, did you know the theory as to why people in California tend to be better looking than the rest of the country? What some people have posited about that? That people who were better looking than average from the rest of the country flooded out here in the early days of movies. Okay,
that makes sense.
It does, kind of. So they all come out here. Some of them made it, most of them didn't, but they stayed out here. So then you have, you just have this whole.
You have a really good base pool of hot. You have a good base pool of hot, and then as Hollywood goes global, people from around the world decide, you know what? I may not speak a lot of English, but damn, I think I can make it.
I personally think it's just that's where the hub for the lizard people is.
Well, you know, they like it hot and dry and.
And also, I mean, isn't Chatsworth and isn't San Fernando still Porn Valley?
Yeah, I used to live in Chatsworth, actually.
So
my best friend lives in Chatsworth. Used to see porn stars driving around all the time.
Yeah. You are just in like 2,000 years. There's going to be everything will be leveled. There'll be long past Escape from LA, and there'll be nothing but a landscape of sand, plastic, and silicone.
Basically, yeah.
That's what I'm, you know, if Boston Dynamics keeps on building them weird ass robots, then I think that is what we're going to have. That's what we're going to have to look forward to.
I said Skynet because this is how you get Skynet.
I swear, Boston Dynamics need to chill. They need to chill. They need to just slow down, watch the Terminator film series, except for Salvation. I love Christian Bale, but we don't acknowledge it. But yeah, they need to watch it and really think about what they're doing.
Well, you know, I heard on the news this morning, I watch the local news out here, KTLA. It's like our local news in Southern California. And they had a story they were running all day about how now there's AI that gives love advice. Like you can ask this AI, like, where's a good place to go on a date in LA? Like, what should I do if this guy's not calling me back? And it's all AI shit. And I was like,
don't like that.
Don't like that at all.
Don't like that.
No. Yeah.
No. No. I can fail on my own.
Right.
I can fail and get ghosted on my own. I don't need an AI to get me there.
I still don't know. I had a coworker once ask me, "How the hell did you get someone to marry with you?" And marry you. And my response was, "I don't have a fucking clue."
Right. This weekend is our 6th anniversary, and it's like even his brother is like, "I have no idea what you see in him." And our 9th anniversaries in a month and a half, and there's kind of this like. I feel like I definitely somehow I seriously don't really understand how I accomplish this, but whatever.
I'm almost to the point in Spare, Prince Harry's book, where he's met Meghan, and I'm reading this and I'm like reading this book and I'm like, Meghan, what the fuck? Did you read this before everyone else did? Because this man, I mean, he goofy as hell.
Yeah, but you know what? Also, he back then, I don't know, my boyfriend's a ginger, so let me clarify that.
Okay, so we're speaking from some experience here.
My boyfriend refers to Harry as the king of the gingers because he was so fucking hot. And that family...
For that,
he got the best of his mother and his grandfather because when Philip was young, Philip was fucking smoking too.
Yeah,
fair point. He got his mother and his grandfather, and none of his father's side.
Was Charles even in the room? Sometimes I look at Meghan and Harry's kids, and I wonder if Meghan was even in the room. I'm like,
right.
I'm like, was Meghan even in? Baby, was you even in the room?
I am just so happy that Philip lived long enough to see Harry and Meghan together, because that must have just hurt him so much. Because this is a guy who, in recent history, he died, went to Aboriginal people in Australia and asked them if they still threw spears.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. I think it's the fact
fucked it up as he's got a ribald sense of humor.
I don't know if I would chalk that up to ribald sense of humor. I would chalk that up as literally to
racism.
I call it a casual racism of our grandparents. I used to deal with it with my nana. I'm not making excuses for it. It's just kind of these things like they're so to them. And I used to have to correct her like, Nana, shut the fuck up. What are you saying? You can't say that shit. And she would say my nana's thing was Mexicans, and I was like, Nana, my grandmother is Mexican. Like, what are you talking about? My grandmother on my other side is Mexican. What are you talking about? You've lived in Southern California your whole life.
This used to be Mexico.
Right.
Yeah, we have the receipt in their drawer. We bought it off of them. Stop it.
And I think a lot of it, and I like to use, for those things, I use my dad as an example of how you can change when it's that kind of,
I think it's
like what I call the casual, they don't know any better. You can change them. My dad used to be like that. He would say some off the wall shit. And my dad used to be exceedingly homophobic. And then I started bringing my gay friends around, and he started talking to them and hanging out with them. It's the exposure thing.
Yeah.
And now my dad is just like, it doesn't even faze him now. Yeah. He doesn't, it's not a thing. They can
change. It just takes a little bit of, it takes exposure and work. But yeah. I think what it is the fact that I think what probably shocked Philip more wasn't that they were together, but that he married her publicly. He married her formally and publicly.
I don't think so, because I'm a royal kind of, I'm into the British history and all that. And Philip was always about, he didn't like a lot of their traditions. He wanted to modernize a lot of the things. He didn't like a lot of the things that they did in the past. He was all about modernizing it.
But when you consider the idea that actresses were never for marrying ever.
Sure.
Actresses were never for marrying. So, and this was an American and a divorcee, much like Wallace Simpson. But the fact that he's like, nope, I'm going to actually marry her. And, he didn't have to, but it was a case that that Harry took advantage of his position as a spare to say, you know what, I'm going to marry her and I can get away with it.
Right.
Good for him too on that front.
Bless his heart, bro.
I'd love to go back to what you were saying, the sort of malleability of people and their ideology and their views over time. And I think that's also why we're all here too. In general, how we ended up where we ended up on the ideological spectrum from where we thought we were.
Yeah.
And I think, you hit it right on the head, the idea of exposure, and to loop it back in from that too. That's clearly part of why I think that there is some part of DeSantis that does do this, not just for the ideology and the messaging part of it, but because he really doesn't want people to learn about anything having to do with other cultures, intersecting.
And I think it also has to, and I think the exposure principle is what is fueling people fueling a lot of states when it comes to their laws against trans people, their laws against drag, because drag is not inherently sexual. Drag isn't inherently sexual, but because it busts out of the sexual box that cishet people put LGBTQ people in, that's why they want to get rid of it.
There's the puritanical streak in our country's history, and part of that puritanical streak is the idea that sex is something that has to be private. So the idea that anybody would express their gender in any way that is outside of what they think is norm is inherently sexual to the puritanical people viewing it, because it's just, why would you bother to express yourself if it isn't sexual?
Right. And there's always, any drag show I've been to, and I've been to plenty, there's always a bit of bodiness to it.
Yeah.
People love body humor. BAWDY, body humor.
Yeah, body humor.
There is that puritanical streak where I know heterosexual women who are super offended by drag queens because they think it's woman face. And that makes me, that kind of sends me over the edge. It's like, they're not making fun of women.
to
It's
me, the idea of taking a concept like blackface and then saying, "Oh, it's woman face." No, that's the one thing we are not going to do today.
yeah.
We're not doing that.
We can
At
have
all.
a discussion too about the roots of drag and black culture and black gay culture and where it comes from and whether there's some inherent misogyny possibly in it. But that's not the discussion that they want to have. They just want to say drag is grooming kids, blah, blah, blah. There's no, if we could have a nuanced discussion of drag and its history and that would be great. But
yeah, because Lord knows we could really have a deep dive about drag and gay misogyny as directed from gay men to women. That is a conversation that can be had, but that would require people to have a certain amount of maturity and regard all people in this discussion as human.
Mhm.
And I think we're talking about people who do not have that ability whatsoever.
Well, they don't want to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Because having that conversation, their minds could possibly be changed. Point of views could change. That can't happen. They have to remain steadfast in whatever bullshit they're into, whatever nonsense they believe. You know, drag queens are groomers. Drag queens are a lot of things. I've had plenty of drag queen roommates, but I've never known one to molest a fucking kid.
All I know,
that's why they have to keep the conversation broad, and that's why they have to
drag queens. And what gets me is the fact that I'm like, if the amount of molestations that happen in churches were taking place not from clerics but from clowns, they'd have fucking banned the circus by now.
I think they're trying to keep the conversation broad and to drag because of the acceptance level of criticizing it, because it's very forward facing. It's very visible. I mean, there's drag shows on TV right now. So it's something easy to make a culture war out of. And it helps them get their message out because they're trying to infect this into as many people as possible. They want people to come to the belief that there are no people who are naturally gay. They believe that people
are naturally trans.
Gay.
We're coming back. We're coming back full circle to what I remember, like the stuff I remember hearing back in the '90s, early '90s.
And there's something that happened in Florida that I know DeSantis definitely does not want to discuss. It was called the Johns Committee. The Johns Committee initially started out to break the NAACP in Florida. When they could not do that, they turned and they tore through the gay community. They tore through it. Men were taken out of their classes at University of Florida, Florida State. They were yanked out of their classes, men yanked out of their offices, driven, thrown into a car, driven into an office, driven and sat down in an office and interrogated about their personal lives, about their intimate lives, who they were sleeping with, where they were going, who are your friends. And many of these people were driven out of their jobs, driven out of their places in school. And I'm going to be honest. I think this is something DeSantis wants to bring back between the election force, that between repeatedly arresting Black people for trumped up election fraud charges that have rarely panned out. Mm-hmm. His attempted orders that tried to stifle places like the R House in Wynwood. That is, I think, the one piece of Black history he has fastened himself to. And he wants this time for the Johns Commission to work.
I mean, they would like to go back to that. They would like to go back to the McCarthy era in Hollywood. You know, I mean, that's what they want to do. That's, I mean, that whole kind of you're with us or you're against us. Who do you believe in? That's how they maintain. That's the only way they can really maintain their power.
I believe at one point in California, you were not only banned from teaching if you were gay, but you were banned from teaching if you supported gay rights. I think this was days before Harvey Milk.
And I think it was actually Reagan who helped end it, ironically enough.
I mean, Reagan's best friend was a gay man.
Reagan came from Hollywood.
Wasn't willing to help him out,
but yeah, he totally left that dude to hang. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Reagan did come from Hollywood, so it's not like he hadn't been exposed, but he was only going to go so far. But this day and age, it just comes down to this pandering of the cucumbers, the QAnon people, the adrenochrome morons.
If it wasn't so goofy, it would make a great science fiction movie.
It would, but they're goofy. I don't even know what to say about these people. They're just so.
They're not.
How do you get to that point?
I just am still on the point that you can barely most people can barely plan a girls' trip with like 5 people without it turning into drama. You're trying to say that you're going to plan having this many kids kidnapped, drained of life fluids, and then this many celebrity? No. Have you met people? Have you met logistics?
We already had a vast and powerful network of sex trafficking that many powerful people were a part of, and that was Jeffrey Epstein. And these were not like harvested for blood. It was just a bunch of sick old rich people who wanted to rape teenagers. And at least 2 presidents have been involved with Epstein, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, but they don't care. They're certainly happy to call Clinton a rapist, but they're not even going to care about the fact that Trump and Epstein were pals.
Right.
I'm like, they lived like down the street from each other. While down the street in Palm Beach means something vastly different than the rest of us, but it's still the concept.
Yeah, it's a lot of ooh, look at those people out there, those people over there. They're bad, but don't look at what I'm doing. Don't look at what I'm doing. But those are the bad ones. But don't look at what I'm doing.
It's just they're obsessed with that nonsense. I mean,
and the whole thing. How can people be so fucking obsessed with it? It's like all they think about is child rape, and like it's just constantly going through your head. Like, what is wrong with you in the first place if that's all you're thinking about?
There have been more QAnon people who have been found out to have had child porn and are sex criminals than drag queens. Right. And when someone does find an actual drag queen or queer person who is an actual sex predator, they'll find the 1 or the 2 and they'll say, "Ha! Proof."
And I'm like,
there are in comparison to the hundreds upon.
And then you're like, and I'm like, they're already in prison. What's your point? They are already in prison. You found them. Congratulations. You found them where they belong, in prison. Congratulations.
That's what that's what the radical feminist community uses against trans people is the odd, the outlier trans person who wants a woman to wax their balls and files lawsuits against them if they don't. I forgot the guy's name, but he was kind of a fucking creep.
I remember her.
Yeah. And he was a fucking. She
was a piece of work.
But they're going to take that. They're going to run with that. Oh, see what they're like. No.
If you found one person, congratulations. In any given population, statistically, there's going to be someone who is a pedophile. You take any category, but the question is, where do the patterns lie? And I can guarantee you, there are far more Catholics and Southern Baptists cases of children being molested.
The Southern Baptist Church tried to hide it from the government, so I think they're due.
So it's just one of those things. Like if you want to try and say that this is something inherent to a given population, maybe prove it, but it's not a thing that's really happening. You have any population, I would just say that, I was the only person that ever tried to attack me was a middle-aged white person. So just putting it there. Shall we put a law to prevent them from teaching?
I mean, depending on the subject, I mean, that it's a conversation.
Good luck enacting any laws against middle-aged white people. Good luck with that.
That was me being funny.
We are the most important people in the world.
Oh God!
It's like that Louis C.K. bit of like, I'm not saying white people are better. I'm saying being white is clearly better.
Obviously, yeah.
All the benefits I now have as a 45-year-old white female. Oh my God! It's like I can do anything I want.
If you just start crying, you just get anything.
Yes. Nobody has ever asked me if a white woman has ever made me cry. No one has. Usually, they do not ask me first.
Right.
What's wrong? They ask me, what did you do to her?
Yep.
So let's get out of this gutter of DeSantis, Florida, and talk about something fun, because we've been going on DeSantis and their attacks on the LGBTQ community and racism and all of that. So let's talk about something fucking hilarious. George Santos.
Oh my God.
Did you happen to catch the Harvey Guillen as George Santos on Colbert last week?
He was made for that.
That was amazing. I thought it was, I had to tip my cap. That man absolutely, I was like, oh, so this is the role you were born for.
I loved him from, The Magicians and from What We Do in the Shadows, but he's definitely, I feel like he could be a great addition to Saturday Night Live if after What We Do in the Shadows has finished its run.
Why don't they just let him host? Get him as a host.
I mean, that would be awesome. I would be a fan.
He'd be a great variety show performer for sure.
Oh yeah.
But but Bowen Yang did a great job as George Santos, but Harvey Guillen was
absolutely took it to a whole new level.
But we finally have him come and admit that yes, he did perform in drag in Brazil. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you motherfuckers have been spending the last 2 years calling drag performers groomers and saying that you protect children. And this motherfucker you put on 2 committees.
Please. For science.
Right.
Science.
Did you guys ever see Paris is Burning? Have you ever seen Paris is Burning?
It's on my list. I know that's something I really do need to see.
I believe I haven't seen it, but I have not seen it.
You have to see it. I posted it on my Facebook. There was I posted a picture of him in drag, and then right underneath it, because in Paris is Burning, there's it's about balls. It's about ball culture.
Yeah.
And there's different categories, and each category as it comes up is on a black screen with the white writing. And right under the picture I posted of Santos in drag, I posted Butch Queen in drag's first time at a ball, which is
I just don't get. There's just so much. He is a very, very unwell man, and I think that he's honestly a threat to the point where I would even say, Kathy Hochul, you can, if this is what it takes to get him out because he won't resign, promise the Republicans that you will replace him with another Republican. I don't care. If it just gets his compromised ass out. If they can expel him.
I was watching the news before this, and they were talking about Santos, and they were interviewing McCarthy about it. And a reporter asked him, "Are you going to do something about this? You going to do?" And McCarthy said, "Well, what is he accused of?"
What isn't he accused of?
Yeah, he said something like, what crime is there? Like, what crime is that?
What is he done? What is he accused of?
You know good and goddamn well what that boy did.
Right. You're not going to forward him to the ethics committee? Oh wait, the House Ethics Committee.
This House Ethics Committee?
Yeah, he would have to go to, if McCarthy wanted to, he could put him to the ethics committee and keep him like they did to MTG.
And keep him off committees and just keep him off the floor. But no, he owes. Unfortunately, George Santos is one of the people to whom Quevin, and I said Quevin McCarthy owes his seat. That lily-livered man has his balls in a glass jar, and it's spread and it's passed, in a glass jar that is passed around between Gates, Green, Boebert, and Santos.
Mm-hmm. And who's the guy? And the guy from Arizona. What's his name? The nutcase.
And Gozar, the white nationalist, the diet white nationalist,
the one whose his own family doesn't even speak to
acknowledge him. Yeah.
What has he got? Like 6 brothers, and none of them like him.
Yeah, they all came out when he was running. They all came out and were just like, "Do not vote for this man."
They're like, "This man is horrible. He's like." They basically were like, "He is a horrible man. We don't even talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want this."
Right. There's a reason his family has disowned him.
And I'm like, how can you?
Because Arizona's going to Arizona.
Of course. Right now, I'm kind of like, I already know. I'm like, right now, I've got Congressman Gallego all up in my emails. Like, you got the $3 yet? You got the $3. I'm like, don't worry, you don't get your $3. Damn.
I am quite glad that there's going to be a Democrat challenging for Sinema's seat. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who say there's so much on the line, blah, blah. The Democrats are not going to hold the Senate in 2024. They're just not. That is not going to be an election.
Stranger things have happened.
The Senate map is not friendly to them in 2024.
Stranger things have happened.
A message needs to be sent to Sinema for doing what she did, because pulling that right after the election was a message that said, don't primary me because you'll lose. And I think the Democrats need to call her bluff and say, then we both lose. I really do.
I honestly think that the Republicans might shit the bed enough that people are going to be like, you know what, fuck them all. But it's just going to be, will there be enough people saying that?
Well, I feel like I feel like it's kind of right now. Everything is kind of, it's a little hard to read, but because going back to Trump announced he's running, but nobody's seen him. You barely heard from him. His campaign is, as far as I'm concerned, dead.
It's non-existent.
He's hiding in the basement. It's a great basement, wonderful basement. Everybody's saying it's the most beautiful basement.
Tremendous basement.
Basically, he's doing the basement thing, but there's no corona to blame it on. Okay.
Right. But if the Republicans, and the thing about Republicans, if they can get someone to fill that vacuum, Republicans love to rally around someone. And if they can do that, then the Senate, then both branches of Congress are going to go back to Republican. We're going to be like we were back in 2016.
Yeah.
Because the Republicans will rally and rally and rally. And I think that person is going to be DeSantis.
I think that, we could have had, and I talked about this in our early episodes, but I think it's worth reiterating, is that we could have squeezed by with a bare minimum majority in the House if the Democrats hadn't completely shit the bed in New York State. Yeah. And they royally tanked.
They really did. Like, what they did in Florida was bad, but what they did in New York was, I don't even understand it.
Refresh my memory with New York and the Democrats.
Well, with New York, they mismanaged. First, they mismanaged the redistricting, and they basically got greedy and it got to a point where the districts were redrawn and approved by the court, where Andrew Cuomo had appointed a conservative who eventually improved the new districting maps. And the Democrats didn't really challenge it or put up the fight that they could have. On top of which, they didn't properly give the campaign resources for several of vulnerable Democrats who could have really stuck out. And they had, and I can't remember the guy's name, Kevin something, or I've got it wrong now. It's been a few months since I was up on this, but the one thing that was really important was they just did not share resources. And you had one guy who basically was so intent on running in his newly created district and failed because he's not a good candidate, and he shared resources with other candidates, and it just went poorly. They lost 3 seats in
that they really didn't need to lose.
It was,
and one of them I think
Democrats took New York for granted. They just assumed. Just like they took Florida, just like how they take Florida, particularly the tri-counties, for granted. They didn't think about the fact that these are conservative Catholics who have an antipathy toward the Black people that have been there for generations and are going and want to make sure that they're tough on communism or whatever the fuck.
Part of it too is Democrats. There's this much more insidious and subtle racism in the Democrats' belief that democratic or demographic shifts are going to save them.
Yeah.
No.
You
have to show up.
Yeah, you can't just say, like, there's a reason why, despite being absent from the Senate so many goddamn times, there's a reason why Marco Rubio still pulled it out. He may be absent. He may never show up at the Senate and may be absent more times than he's there. But if there's a little showdown, if there's an opportunity for him to show up at La Carreta for all the viejos and viejas, he's going to do it. If he's going to, and he basically has Miami-Dade County, he basically has Cubans eating out of the palm of his hand because, and as much as Val Demings did try to reach out to the Black community,
she's a cop.
It comes down to she's a cop. She is well liked, she is respected, but she is a cop.
Don't run a Republican light as a Democrat against another Republican. Why do they keep falling for this?
I think it's the idea that I feel like they didn't have the balls. They didn't have the balls to draft Anna Eskamani. She's a state. I'm not going to say bump her all the way up to Senate, but honestly, Anna Eskamani, Florida, I believe she's House District 42, Central Florida. Like, the fact that she is as good at her job as she is, she's either going to, as I think I said this in like my very first episode, she's going to cling to that district and serve that district till Ahura Mazda takes her home, or she's going to, I think before I leave this earth, she might make it to the Senate. She's probably what the Democrats need. But, they ain't going to make an
effort. They need to make an effort, and they need to stop promoting. Maybe if we put a centrist against a radical Republican, that will inspire the Democrats to get out the vote.
The thing is, there is a deep bench. I just don't know how the quality of it.
I think we've somehow managed to find our way back in Florida again, and we keep, every time.
I'm sorry. I live in Hell World, and Hell World is collapsing on itself to become a black hole of transphobia and racism. I do apologize.
Let's talk about something more cheerful, like California and its spate of mass shootings.
I was just going to drop that. Did you know the mayor of Palm Springs, our town here, I voted for, is the first trans mayor in the country?
Wow.
Lisa Middleton, yeah. So I just
I thought I was on shit by following Danica Rome.
I love Danica Rome, where when she did that thing, like, I'm not going to badmouth one of my constituents. Damn, you just did.
I like Danica Rome a lot. She deserves every bit of her flowers for being a trailblazer.
Sorry, I'm just remembering that shade. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember.
For the previous 7 years, I lived in Delaware, and it was really amazing to see Sarah McBride get her way into the state Senate there. Speaking of trans people getting into elected office. So it's nice to see, as much as there's so much vitriol and horribleness coming from one side, there is still some light and goodness happening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Palm Springs needed to change. It was so corrupt. It's like a little... this is where they put their money, and it's a resort town, and it's rich people, and
so it's like Palm Beach, but better weather.
Yeah, like one of our mayors, the city hall got raided by the FBI, and my boyfriend's dad was the economic development director for Palm Springs at the time. He wasn't involved, but it was all about kickbacks. And he was at lunch one day at like the local Pizza Hut or something, and two dudes in suits sat down and started talking to him like, "Hello, Mr. So-and-so, can we ask you about Steve Pounier?" And
what?
Yeah, it's all kickbacks.
I'm now beginning to think Billy Corben is making the films about the wrong state. No, he's not. No, he's not. Billy Corben belongs to us. Billy Corben belongs to us. We Lord knows we deserve it. I'm still waiting for him to make a film about Moscow connections in South Florida. That's what I'm waiting on him to do.
We are not staying in Florida for the duration of the episode.
All right, but yes. California and its spate of mass shootings. And the thing is, what's actually just kind of throwing me off is I think throwing everyone off is the demographic of the shooters.
Yeah. That kind of threw me as well. I'm pretty familiar with all those communities, not so much Half Moon Bay. My sister lives up north, but Monterey Park, I was born in the San Gabriel Valley. The shooter lived in my hometown. Hemet is where I moved to Hemet when I was 13 years old.
Hemet, like Scientology gold base Hemet?
Oh, I used to be able to see gold base from my house growing up.
Okay.
I could tell you some stories about that.
Eventually, we're going to need to do a Scientology special at some point.
We might.
That's going. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
I have Scientology stories for days.
But with the fact that the shooters and victims were Asian, I think it comes back. I think it comes to mostly just statistical eventuality that it had to happen, because most shooters, unless they're like the white supremacists who shoot up like the churches
or supermarkets or
except for those situations, most mass shooters tend to target their own communities or people they're familiar with. So I feel like that it just was a statistical eventuality, and especially so I don't see anything outside of a coincidence in it.
Yeah, well, that's because we're looking at it from outside the community. Inside the community, there's probably going to be a lot of dialogue about, what we're not doing for our elders, especially our elder men. People who've fallen into the trap of becoming WhatsApp aunties or WhatsApp uncles. I think there's going to be a lot of internal discussion that they're going to need to sit with themselves on. This is not something like this, and especially around Lunar New Year, I will not be shocked if there's a lot of closed discussion in the Asian American community that we're not going to talk about.
There's already reports that when they searched the guy's home in Hemet, he was modding guns in his trailer. They found a bunch of modded guns. But but he also had a history with that Star Ballroom in Monterey Park. He was a dance instructor. So he had history at that particular ballroom, as well as the Lele Ballroom, which is the second one he went to where he was disarmed. So I think that's what they're looking for. He probably had some sort of grievance with people there. He had gone to the reports that I heard, he had gone to the Hemet Police Department and claimed that his family was trying to poison him. So there was some stuff going on with that. Yeah. But I think it was very, he had some sort of grievance because I'm going to say he probably wasn't allowed back. He was probably ostracized from the dance community.
Yeah.
His ex-wife has been interviewed and said he wasn't mean, but he had a tendency to get mad when they were dancing if she missed a step, shit like that.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think all of this serves to be great fodder, too, for the people who want to say it's a mental health issue yet again, because that's what they do. They love talking about how there needs to be a mental health issue, and it's curious it's the only time they care about giving people
mental health. Yeah, it's like they don't really care about mental health till the mental health goes awry.
Right.
And it just needs to not be so easy to get guns, and I realize that's something that makes people think clearly I never came from a Republican background. I'm just a liar because I'm a commie who hates guns. I own 3 handguns. I'm not a gun hater. This is not that. This is a case of it should not be so easy for people who clearly have problems and people who have a violent history, who are, convicted violent criminals, history of violence, domestic violence, etc., to be able to get an AR-15 or a Kalashnikov and kill, 5 to 50 people.
You should not have that ability so quickly.
It just is what it is. I don't think that it's, there's no, I'm not afraid of anybody coming to take my guns because no one has ever come to take your guns, ever.
Right.
It has never happened. Obama didn't do it. They said Obama was going to do it. He didn't do it. They said Biden was going to do it. He didn't do it.
That's all all that bullshit. That's just a distraction to take away from really talking about it. Well, they're going to take your guns. They're not going to fucking take your guns.
You're not going to take your guns.
Keep saying that so you can avoid having a real conversation.
They're not going to take your guns. Trust me. They'll only take guns when Black people have guns. Calm down.
They did that already. I mean, what was it? What was the Black Panther they took over? Was it San Francisco City Hall? And then all of a sudden it was, oh man, shit, we need some gun control.
Right.
So, a little dicey.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I am officially exhausted of they're gonna take your guns. I mean, yes, Beto said it that one time, but that was after another mass shooting.
And also Beto was a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's a fucking idiot. I appreciate his passion, but he's a fucking idiot.
I did think he handled Abbott that whole press conference pretty well after Uvalde.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was awesome.
He went in there, he was basically all of us going in there like, what the fuck,
bro? Yeah, it was basically what the fuck, bro?
I love when fucking Abbott got up there and talked about how the police did their jobs, and I'm like, the police
didn't do shit.
Yeah, they were checking their Facebooks in the hallway.
Yeah, insert Sailor Moon, but you didn't do anything. GIF here.
Yeah,
I just I mean, cops are useful if you want someone to shoot your dog, or
or a Black person.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean.
Or a person with person with a mental health crisis.
Yeah. Never, ever call the police if someone is having a mental health crisis. Just don't.
Yeah. I trust the night shift of the Waffle House more with someone with a mental health crisis than a cop. I'm sorry. I trust the night shift of the Waffle House to handle a person with a mental health crisis better than a cop,
because those people have run the scenarios. They have game day plans for everything up to a zombie apocalypse.
Waffle House.
I think Dallas is frozen, but
That's great. That's a great still.
I would also trust the people of Waffle House with my very life.
Oh, yes, because they've seen it all. Just like you said, they've seen it all. They, somebody's in here talking to themselves and throwing shit. They know how to handle it. They're not going to shoot them. They're,
And they're going to offer them a grant. They're going to offer them a water, a grand slam, and a blanket.
Right.
And I'm sorry, for many people, that's all they need.
The Waffle House is the place to go. Denny's is not. Oh, by the way, I had fucking Patton Oswalt stole my joke because for years I was saying Denny's is not a place you go on purpose. It's a place you end up. And the last special, Patton Oswalt had that exact joke. And I'm like, I don't know how, but he fucking stole it from me.
Listen, you don't really go out to go to Denny's. You just end up there. It's 3 a.m. The club's closed. The club is closed, and you really are not. And you're not quite sure you really need to go home right now.
Denny's is an accident.
The boyfriend and I love Denny's. We like to go to Denny's sometimes. We love their salad. Denny's has the best ranch. Denny's has the best ranch.
I will say this,
I'll die on that hill.
Depending on the Denny's, a local BDSM group used to meet at a Denny's, and we did that, and they did that, and we did that for years, to the point where there was one particular waitress who always served us, and we're like, at this point, she could teach the class,
right?
Because there wasn't an IHOP available.
We don't do IHOP. IHOP don't have a private room. Depending on the Denny's, some Denny's have a private room. It was.
We went to the Denny's.
The Denny's in Hemet had its own bar attached to it.
I don't know if you really want to give a Denny's with a bar. Just seems kind of
pool table and everything. Pool table and everything.
That seems like it's cutting out the middleman here. You should be going to at least 2 different bars before you hit the Denny's.
That is a place you go when you want to have a story that you have to piece together the next day with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it looked like the Regal Beagle. It was fantastic. It was a lovely place. Really.
I'm still thinking about the fact that if you have a Denny's that serves alcohol, it just feels like you're cutting out the middleman on some level, like you're cheating.
Well, it's mostly because you usually end up at Denny's after you've been binge drinking, and you can't just stop drinking. You need to taper off. So
yeah. Okay, I get it. So it's like you go to the Denny's, you have your last beer, you start transitioning off of that, you start drinking your coffee, and then eventually you end up and you've got your French toast or whatever the fuck in front of you, and then you're kind of starting to come down.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it. I see the vision. I see the vision.
When I was in my early 20s, it was kind of the spot. I know quite a few girls who got pregnant by the Denny's bartender.
I thought you were going to.
I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And they fought over his ass too. They fought over him. He was like,
I'm done.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I can't top that. How do you top that?
You really can't top that.
I mean, apparently they did.
Repeatedly, apparently. Apparently this man was quite the attraction.
Yeah, a Hemet 10 is like an LA 2.
Oh man, and here I was like thinking maybe when Jeremy Renner gets better, we make a movie about this and have him play the bartender. You can kind of believe this with him because it's like he's not that attractive, but
the bartender
probably after
Jeremy Renner, yeah,
like he's not that inherently attractive, but after a couple drinks, the proposition doesn't look bad.
Right. He's not my first choice. Yeah.
Exactly. Jeremy Renner is nobody's first choice. He is the Denny's of the Avengers. You just kind of end up with him.
But
yeah.
he is he's quite an attractive fellow. So I think I don't get the Jeremy Renner hate. I get the Hawkeye hate. I don't get the
I'm not a Jeremy Renner hater, and I'm ambivalent toward Hawkeye. My roommate's giving me the stink eye, but I don't care.
You know what? I absolutely loved him in The Hurt Locker and The Town.
Oh yeah.
And
The Town was the shit. I support it. I get it. No, the man, he deserved it for The Town. I actually fought through Neo Ned, and I hate myself for it. Never doing that shit again as long as I live.
I think we've lost the plot.
Oh God, that plot jumped off. The plot jumped off and away ages ago. But at least we're in California now.
Well, speaking of California and speaking of movies, the Oscar nominations came out today, and I thought we should bring that up.
Oscars are white again. Do not want.
Well, no, they're not. They are, but they're less.
Asian Americans dominated Asian Americans received more nominations than anybody this year.
There were some nominees, none of the Asian ones, but there were some nominees that I'm like, y'all could have squeezed in Viola Davis. Y'all could have squeezed in Danielle Detweiler. Danielle Detweiler deserved. I said what I said.
It's all campaigning.
I do love that Angela Bassett it got her due and got the first Marvel acting nomination.
That category is one of the roughest and toughest. Every single one in there. Like Angela Bassett is the one to beat, but every performance in that category is.
I'm kind of back and forth on Jamie Lee Curtis on that. I'm like, yeah, but I think it's like they could have dropped her, thrown in Lashana Lynch, and I would have been a little bit more understandable because Stephanie Zhu definitely gave what needed to be gave. Stephanie Zhu gave what needed to be gave. And I know that Best Supporting Actress is a snake pit. It's a snake pit. You gotta fight.
As far as best lead, I think Cate Blanchett is going to take that like hands down.
You think it's I think it's going to be Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, it's going to be.
I think it's going to come down to those two.
It's a time-served Oscar for Michelle Yeoh. She's going to get a time-served Oscar.
It is, but if you look at the incredible amount of praise for Cate Blanchett from other filmmakers rather than from reviewers and the general public, I think Michelle Yeoh deserves it, but I think Cate Blanchett is going to get it.
That's fair. I mean, I was not blown over by Tar. I saw it bootleg. I was unimpressed, but
yeah, most people are kind of like
I'm
underwhelmed by Tar.
I understand why why it might go to her, but
yeah. I mean, she did she get anything for The Aviator? Because that's what she should have won for.
Yeah,
I think she was nominated for that. I think if she took made a film of herself pissing, taking a shit, that she'd get a nomination. Let's
put it like this. So it comes down to two people with very good arguments for time served Oscars. I call these Oscars time-served Oscars because they've got an amazing body of work. They should have won at least 2 or 3 other times. Lord knows how many times they deserve it, but like they never get it. Yes, DiCaprio is the king of the time-served Oscar.
Mm-hmm. I have to say that when Kate Winslet got hers finally for The Reader, I was like, she got it she was a great actress in it, but they gave it to her for the shittiest movie.
Yes.
That's how a lot of people felt about Training Day. That's how people felt about Training Day. And I was like, for Malcolm X ages ago, and I'm sorry, I will go to the gates of heaven believing that.
Denzel should have won for Flight, which I think is
a great movie.
That's fair. That's an argument I'm willing to hear out.
I would say that it is Robert Zemeckis' greatest film if he hadn't made Back to the Future.
Oh,
what about The Frighteners? The Frighteners.
Yeah,
Jackson.
I thought Zemeckis made
No,
The
that's Peter
Frighteners.
Jackson. That is Peter Jackson.
But
I know me some Peter Jackson. I know this.
Uh,
I
I've
could have
seen.
sworn Zemeckis was involved in that.
no,
Maybe he was a
he
producer.
was a producer.
Okay.
But this was. Oh, trust me, I've seen the 4-hour making of for the Frighteners. That
Okay,
Oh
'cause
my
I love that
God.
movie.
that was on the Laserdisc. So,
I still can't believe Laserdisc was a thing.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just still on the fact that I'm sorry. I feel like that the Oscar voters they're like, okay, that's enough diversity. We're gonna just pack it up. Nope, got absolutely shut out, and I'm still confused by that. Not even technical Oscars for that shit, and I'm just still kind of like, what the fuck? Woman King got shut out, also leaving me going, what the fuck? And that's why I'm saying they're stepping back and going, oh, well, that's enough diversity. Let's move on.
come on,
And
we
that's
gave
how-
it to Moonlight. Do we have to keep doing this?
Yeah, that's how I feel that they're at right now. They're like, we gave it to Moonlight. We gave Jordan Peele his little Oscar. Do we have to keep doing this? Yes, motherfucker, you do.
Did we talk about Nope, by the way? I can't remember if we talked about
Like I said, Nope deserved. But they decided to be assholes. Much like how I saw The Woman King and I felt that film deserved, but they decided to be assholes.
I mean, Nope was like the best Spielberg pastiche that Spielberg never made.
There are some little it feels like there are some tributes in there.
J.J. Abrams and his Super 8 can suck it because
all day and every day.
Nope did Spielberg better than anybody who isn't Spielberg.
That's I'd love to see you have that argument, and I would back you up. I would love to see you walk into a room and just argue that down.
The thing is, Jordan Peele, he knows his visual cinema history
very well,
and he knows how to make an homage without ever copying. In the way that Get Out has its elements of the Stepford Wives. Get
Out to me felt like the minor key descant to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Get Out was the minor key descant to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
And Us very much has these moments where I think it has a lot of beats from The Birds, and I think that was especially.
I can see that.
The ending
I
is
can see that.
The Birds, and
I can see that. I think, and I know that for him, I know he loves him some Hitchcock. Hitchcock is one. You can see the Hitchcock in a lot of it. Personally, I like my Hitchcock when it's with a nice heavy bit of Saul-based inspired visuals, but that's just me though.
Well, there's and Nope. There was like it very much had this amazing bit of Jaws and Jurassic Park in a way that didn't feel.
Oh yeah, like I mean, this sounds stupid, but some of the running scenes, I'm like, there was like even as something as dumb as the running scenes, I'm looking at this like Tom Cruise could, would, and should never, ever.
Well, the scene
in his life,
the scene in Nope, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but the scene in Nope where he's basically doing the horse run with the hoodie on. And the music for that, to me, it recalled without copying the One Barrel Chase music from Jaws. And like there's
I can kind of recall pieces of that. I'm trying to remember if my
musically is not the same, but as far as the feeling that it evoked, I felt like it was the barrel chase scene of Nope. I really think that Nope should have been in consideration, and it got nothing.
Well, I'm surprised that Nope. I'm surprised Nope didn't get anything because Hollywood loves movies about Hollywood.
Oh my God, The Artist and frickin'
The Artist, which
The Artist.
I love silent movies, but I was still just. Or Life is Beautiful.
Hollywood loves movies about Hollywood, and it loves musicals. So there's just.
Yeah. The other one I was surprised to not see any nominations for was The Menu. I
think The Menu came out too late.
No, The Menu came out in time for consideration.
I've heard a lot of good things, believe it or not, of all places, sex worker Twitter talking about Menu. the menu.
Yeah.
Sex worker
Yeah.
Twitter's like, no, you need to see the menu. And I'm like, that shit did look good. It looked good to begin with. But now I'm like, oh, word?
I've watched it twice. It's probably one of the best movies I've seen in 10 years.
I haven't seen it, but I have heard that it does a really great takedown of Steven Seagal. Like,
I mean, that's not hard, but I'm here for it.
Of like, are they talking about like the John Leguizamo?
Yeah, I was told that he was supposed to be basically Steven Seagal, and I've heard that it's a great takedown of him.
You can I kind of took him as more of like I didn't necessarily take him as a Steven Seagal character, because he's never named, even it's just credited as movie star. So I kind of took him, he's like a fading movie star. He wants to pitch like a food travel show to kind of, somebody asked him in the beginning, like, what are you doing here, man? And he's like, oh, I'm in my presenter stage. Like,
that sounds like some Steven Seagal shit. Because
he was on that show. He was a sheriff and sheriff's deputy in Louisiana, which should frighten everybody.
Yeah, it's
why would you do that? Sorry, I'm just
Steven
still on.
Seagal.
Yeah, it's Steven Seagal, and I keep forgetting. And then every time I think of Steven Seagal, I think about that horrible, horrible music video.
I just think about him eating the carrot.
No, watch Wakanda Forever and watch Winston Duke eating a carrot. It'll make you feel better.
I love Winston Duke. Speaking of,
I'm just saying, watch that man eat a carrot. That'll cleanse your memories.
I just like there's two. Like, first of all, he was amazing in Us, but just that single scene in the first Black Panther where he just like grunts at what's his freaking name, where he's trying to talk to him, and he just
like, and the entire palace hall just fills with it, and I'm like, I wish I could do that.
Why can't I remember his goddamn name?
M'Baku?
No.
Ross.
Agent the actor. He was Sherlock Holmes, right?
Short. Not. Martin Freeman.
Thank you, Martin Freeman. But yes, that scene, like, it was just like, all right, I liked Winston Duke. Now I love Winston Duke.
I think a lot of people were like, who is this huge guy? And then the thirst tweets began. And they have not stopped. I have seen the thirst tweets. They're amazing.
I still need to see the Banshees of Inisherin. So
it was really good.
I've heard good things about that one too.
And I love Martin McDonagh. I mean, In Bruges is still one of my favorite movies of all time.
Me too.
It feels like a diet In Bruges with like less killing.
I don't know if you can even really compare it to In Bruges.
And Three Billboards was great.
It's the same three people: Martin McDonagh, Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson. Yeah. But this is Banshees of Inisherin. Is the backdrop is the Irish Civil War, so it takes place in like 1923.
Oh wow! So you're a bunch of old Irish guys hating each other.
It's they're not even hating each other. It's just the whole thing. If you think about the Irish Civil War and you think about like the clips of it that you've seen, like, if you continue to talk to me, I'm going to cut off my own fingers and throw them at your house. Like, leave me alone. He never gives a reason. There's never a reason. And it just kind of turns into this thing. And I'm not going to give away too much of it, but it's on HBO Max.
Okay.
That's one. I recommend that.
To re-up my subscription, and I don't want to.
We watched The Menu and the Banshees of Inisherin back to back.
I'm probably going to watch that while I got slow time I'm probably going to watch it while I got slow time at work. I'm still like back and forth about how much do I hate HBO Max, because HBO Max still gave us Winning Time, and that shit was so fucking good.
They canceled all my favorite shows. I am just
the fact that they don't keep even some of our favorite canceled shows in archive. I'm like, so y'all got rid of Legendary?
This is why I say, if you love something, buy a physical copy. I felt like an old fuddy-duddy for years saying this, but I am being vindicated in real time by this Warner Brothers HBO Max bullshit.
Well, the thing is, the one I wanted was never available in physical copy, so I was just fucked.
There's that.
Like, bitch, all I wanted to do was watch Ballroom while working. God damn.
You know, there's HBO Max is pretty good about picking up shows that belong to other networks. You know, they picked up a lot of the old Cinemax shows. There's a show that I'm rewatching on HBO Max right now from about 10 years ago called The Nick. And it was on Cinemax for 2 seasons. And that one was way ahead of its time.
I'm sorry.
Way ahead of its time.
When you said that HBO is bringing the stuff from Cinemax, it just reminded me.
Oh, it was not Skinemax.
No, it just reminded me of the time I went online and found people complaining that HBO had removed all of their basically softcore stuff from the app years ago, and there was all these boomers who couldn't find their softcore porn anymore.
You couldn't find real 635.
They were complaining to Comcast that HBO had removed it.
That's not even a problem.
I know.
That's not even a problem.
The most boomer shit ever, writing a complaint to Comcast that HBO doesn't show softcore porn anymore.
That is the worst company to complain to.
You got the first step. You logged onto the internet. You can go anywhere but here. Oh.
Somebody on Pornhub has. If you dig deep enough in Pornhub, somebody probably uploaded all the good scenes from Real Sex.
There clearly was an episode of Taxi Cab Confessions that this guy wanted to go back in archives, but he couldn't find it.
Or what was that one? The Cat House or something?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
This. I feel like we've. Oh my! This is the longest episode we've done. We should probably.
Yeah, it is. You're not okay.
I've got one last news update, and it looks like breaking news. Henry Kissinger's still alive somehow.
What the